Okay, yeah, thanks so much. I want to bring in our experts, our HLN legal analyst, great criminal defense attorney Joey Jackson's with us, and Cheryl Dorsey joins us as well, retired LAPD sergeant. Joey, I'll start with you. Really, for both of you, I want to get your reactions, but your reaction when you heard guilty and guilty of murder.
The reaction, Mike, good to be with you and my friend Cheryl Dorsey as well, was wow, right? Wow. That was my reaction, I have to say, and I was quite surprised. I didn't think they'd get there. I thought that they certainly wouldn't convict of murder. I didn't think they'd convict of manslaughter. So, you know what? The jury spoke. They spoke loudly and clearly. But if that's the question before me, which is how I felt about it, amazing. At the same time, you know, in terms of just a shock, at the same time, you know, it had to resonate that you have a person who is in their own home, minding their own business, having the luxury and just relaxing, and they end up dead. And it begs the question, how could this happen? You know, under what circumstances could it be allowed to occur? And the jury answered that question. They said under no circumstance. And as a result of that, the 26-year-old accountant that we're looking at now, I think, you know, they honored his life by convicting him.
Yeah, and again, I want to let everybody know we could learn Amber Guyger's sentence today. We could have victim impact statements today. We'll keep tabs on the courtroom for you. Cheryl, were you surprised at the guilty verdict?
I was pleasantly surprised because, listen, I talk all along about great deference given to a police officer's version, and Amber created a scenario and she stuck to it. I was scared. You know, I thought I was going to die. But the problem with that is that she was unable to articulate what scared her beside the fact that she was within close proximity to a black man. And so just because a black man might frighten you, you don't get to take his life. And so I am pleasantly surprised.
Joey Jackson, I thought of the two closing arguments, the prosecution was more compelling. I thought the defense was just instructing the jury mostly on the law, and maybe that's what you have to do. Correct me if I go astray here, but here's some of the points made by the prosecution, that her unreasonable decisions led to the death of an innocent man, that her story was absurd. There's no way she should not have known that was her apartment. The smell of marijuana is wafting out. She had to have known. Also, self-defense. Self-defense from what? Is he a threat? The guy's in his own home eating ice cream. She went in commando style and executed who and whatever was in there. And then, Joe, I want to play this for you. This is Amber Guyger on the stand. And it's to that point when the prosecutor gets her to admit she had an intent to kill. Let's listen to that. We'll get your take coming out.
When you shot at Mr. Jean, you knew you were using deadly force against him.
Yes.
You know what a bullet can do, don't you?
Yes, I do.
And when you shot at him twice, you intended to kill him.
Yes, sir.
How far did that moment there go to convicting her?
I think it went very far, very far. You admitted intent. What's the issue before the jury? The issue is intent. To your point about instructing the jury on the law, there are some judges who don't let you go near that. They'll say, Mr. Jackson, you know I'm the judge, right? And I instruct on the law. Proceed with your argument, sir. Different jurisdictions vary. This one, apparently, you're allowed to talk about the law. Now, certainly you want to weave in your closing argument what the law, elements of the law, to make them fit with your facts. But clearly, Mike, I think the prosecution, you know, in their closing arguments at least, took the defense, right, to the cleaners, in as much as saying, right, you don't have to hear it from me. You don't have to hear from the defense. She admits the element of intent. That's what this is all about. It's not about premeditation. We don't need to be lying in wait and waiting for a week for someone to come home to kill them. At that very moment, it should be, you know, it could occur. And clearly, as it relates to intent, they co-opted that and said, you know what, there was intent. And, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't find intent, then certainly you have to find that she acted unreasonably with regard to being in an apartment that was not hers, going in there, as you mentioned, Mike, commando style, shooting and killing him. Game over.
Yeah. Cheryl, another point made by the prosecutor was that you had two options. You go in as you did, and they laid it out there, was commando style. You went in guns a-blazing was the terms they used, or you back off. It would have been safer for you and Botham Jean still alive. Let's listen to a little bit of that. I want to get your take coming out.
Okay.
Here were your options then. Your options were, at this point, to go in and find the threat, or your option would have been, I'm going to back off, I'm going to take a position of cover and concealment, and I'm going to get some help out here. Those are options, right?
They are.
Okay. But you chose option A, which was I'm going in to find the threat.
That was the only option that went through my head. I was at home.
Cheryl, do you think that resonated with the jury, that if she backs off, she's safer and Botham Jean's alive today?
Absolutely. And listen, we know that that wasn't the only option in her head because you can't unknow your training. You can't unlearn what you know as a police officer. And so in this instance, it cuts both ways because let's say she was on duty responding to a burglary. She looked in through a crack and saw at least one suspect, could have been more than one. Training mandates that you back up, take a position of cover and concealment, and request backup. She was still in uniform. She had the ability to do everything off duty that she could have done on duty. She made a choice to go in, engage the threat, and so now there's a consequence.
Yeah, I mean, and the prosecution said, what kind of threat? The guy's eating ice cream. I mean, all those real-world examples must have stuck with this jury. Joey, Cheryl, guys, stick around. We're monitoring what's going on in court. Want to let you know that. We could have victim impact statements, and we could find out Amber Guyger's sentence any moment now. But it was a stunning verdict, despite her remorse. The verdict, guilty.